Hello, and this is my documentary film festival evaluation for my project MASA, the mockumentary. A quick synopsis of my documentary slash mockumentary is a man named Samson Nova has a goal of going to space and meeting a space alien of any kind, really. And to do that, he has a company that is producing these helmets which are meant to be space helmets but are really motorbike helmets in and throughout the whole project or mockumentary, um, his goal is to gain a loan to be able to continue making these helmets and potentially move on to creating a rest of the suit and a final launch which will be introduced later on as Samson wants to launch it through a village, which he has no idea of how to do or the consequences of doing that. And by the end, you realize that Samson has no idea what he is doing and is kind of just winging it for this dream that he's most likely not going to achieve. My role during this project during the film festival was firstly before the film festival, so pre-production of it, if you will. I was a graphic designer helping other people make their posters if they had some other project they were working on at the time, like working on the script for the actual hosts for the festival, or if they were just falling behind or whatever was the reason. And I also made a poster for the film festival, which I'll show you later on in this evaluation. And on the day of the festival, I worked on vision mixing, where I pretty much organized all the files of which order they would go into according to the script and the manager's vision for it. And then whilst visitors or the audience came, I manually played each of the documentaries by putting them up onto the screen through a program which put it onto the screen and had it all queued into a nice timeline for me to just quickly press it and the next one would come on. The audience, my target audience for my documentary was around the ages of 15 to 35, so around Gen Z to the millennials of the generations, and I would say it was these two generations mainly because of who wrote it and how it came out in the end as well. I would say that a lot of the humor is more teenage based. Obviously, I'm still a teenager, and so other teenagers will get the humor and feel better about watching it in the end. So older generations won't understand the humor or just won't be as entertained or whatever. However, I do know millennials who like that type of humor as well. My parents and some other people in my family who enjoy that type of humor, and so it ends up working well with both generations. Also, from inspiration, I took a lot of inspiration from uh, The Office, Parks and Recreation, which a lot of older generations, I guess, would have watched because they came out around their time, and because of that, the way I've structured this mockumentary would have tailored to them more, as well. So I feel like it's a nice balance between humor and structure, which kind of combines the two generations and ages of my age range in the end. Even though my documentary had a more of a younger, I would say, audience, the festival's target audience would have been higher in my eyes. Obviously, you still got the teenagers because we're at a college, so most likely they're going to come from seeing the posters around college or the tutors mentioning it to them and then being interested or kind of just getting forced to go. Um, then you got a festival, the festival for a documentary. When you hear that, younger generations would not tend to go due to the fact younger generations usually have a lower attention span nowadays due to things like TikTok, Instagram, all the social medias having a short spaced type of content where they can just scroll and they get their information quite quickly, and due to that they go through a lot more content quickly, but they also need to get into into a project or something more quicker, or they get bored easily and just give up or stop watching. And because of that, I feel like the target audience would have been more tailored to the older generations, millennials, and maybe even further up, because of how content used to be more focused on the progression rather than how quickly you can get into something. And I feel like documentaries are more slower, so less younger people will actually care or be interested in watching these things. So in the end, you see more older people go, like tutors who are interested to see the event, or parents of the the kids who have made these documentaries, or just people who've somehow come across it on like social medias or something. And so in the end, I think the film festival, it can still be tailored towards my generation and that I've set for my documentary. However, I feel like my documentary would tailor to a younger audience compared to the whole film festival in general. The progression of my documentary as well tailors into how audience perceive it. Mine, how even though it is 12 minutes long and usually content's quite shorter now, I feel like because of the content in it, it feels quicker than it actually is. However, some other people in the festival, so the people who did regular documentaries, I can see their documentaries as a very much slower pace compared to mine, because of the lack of humor, really. Mine's more humor based, I guess, if you look at it, and compared to the other ones, which are more information, heavy information. And so in the end, I think from the festival, I could tell that some people were getting bored, some people left, some people stayed. It really depended on who the person was. So a lot of teenagers left. I didn't see many at the end unless they knew the person in the festival or something else. And then and then when it came to everyone else's festival, it was very quiet. And then when mine was out, it got a couple laughs. So I think in the end, due to the content was in my documentary, it tailors to a wider range of an audience rather than other documentaries in the festival. Not saying they're bad, but that would mean mine would get more of an audience than some of the other ones in the end. Posting my mockumentary to YouTube, I gathered a couple of feedbacks from multiple different people sending it to a lot of people on the internet as well. It ended up getting onto some people's recommended, with people giving me feedback, with like someone mentioning how it was just on their YouTube recommended. They had never seen me before and it was good, and they said keep it up. And other people who I knew more personally, like my friend Oliver, who gave me feedback, and in the end, I think it shows how much I grew from the feedback I got from my FMP in the first year. In the first year of college, my FMP was not the best. The story did not follow a good or constant structure or good pacing, really, to the point where it didn't really make sense to anyone. And I think I've improved that a lot from the first project I've done, with no one asking why this happens or why something else happens in the story. And I think I take that as a positive, to show I've grown to the point where I can make a story now with a constant structure that follows that structure and keeps going and making sense throughout the whole thing without taking any bumpy roads along the way, which I am proud of as well. However, obviously, I am not perfect. I am not a professional, and I do make mistakes still. And the biggest piece, or well, not biggest, but the most amount of feedback I got for one thing was how shaky it was. I'm a person who tends to not use a tripod or a gimbal, which I need to get better at. I was trying to go for a realism type thing, like there was a documentary crew at this location. It wasn't set up for actors or anything. I wanted it to feel like you were in this world as a documentary crew documenting this company. However, I realized after filming it all without a tripod, or I think I would have preferred a gimbal over a tripod, but after it all, I realized I could have done that in post, and because of how shaky it was, a lot of people did pick up on it and say that, which is something I need to work on a lot more. Also, lighting. It was a very dark video. That was not my fault. When I exported the video, it went darker. I'm not sure why, but I need to look into why it happened more and potentially make precautions before to make sure it doesn't happen. For example, lighting. I was using natural lighting from the room, which didn't end up looking as good as I would have hoped, making it quite dark in editing, and in the final edit going even darker, unknown to me. And I think next time I need to take more of a precaution by using lighting pads and setting it up in like the 3-style lighting methods we've been taught to highlight people and to make it look more professional in the end as well. The reason I didn't use it was because I wanted it to feel natural as well. The whole thing was meant to look natural, like they were here. They didn't set anything up, they've just gone and filmed. And I mean, it kind of looks like that, but I feel like I could have done it better in the end because of the lighting and not having a gimbal or whatever, or tripod, I mean. I feel like it could have been improved upon a lot, and I'll be taking that into consideration in my future projects. What went well in my documentary was as I've said before, pacing and structure turned out a lot better than I would have hoped. Well, better than I imagined, considering my last attempt, and I'm really proud of how it turned out within the 12 minutes and how quick it feels. Even though it's 12 minutes, you can get through it quite quickly. It feels like, because it doesn't drag on, it keeps constant editing skills. I made sure there's not too many long shots or few cutaways. I made sure to have multiple shots, especially in the middle scene, the second scene with Sean on the screen, and then Samsung. I have some clips closer to the screen of Sean, and then some further back with Samsung still on the screen but looking towards him, and then some facing the other way, facing Samsung. So it ended up giving it off as if there's multiple people in this room filming them. There's more of a crew, but also it keeps the story going and not keeping it on one screen, causing people to lose interest or feel drained of this one scene. It keeps moving forwards, keeping a steady pace. Moving on from that, teamwork. I personally think the teamwork in this project was done very well. Compared to last time, my directing skills was not the best. However, since we were doing this improvised, the acting that is, it felt more realistic for one, but also it ended up making it a lot easier to work together and improve my directing skills. When there's a script and a structure, it's very hard to, I would say, move past that, because you want to keep it going in the way you wanted it to originally. Where if you're improvising it, you can use what's happened or move in a different direction because you don't have a script to work off. You've got more freeness to work off it, but also you've got more, you can think of more things you can do with it. So I was thinking of very different ways to like film it and direct the actors to do it in these things. There was one scene with Robbie, I think it was the interview scene, where we did a load of different scenes where he was just doing different things each time, and it ended up coming out quite nicely. Because we did it so many times, it ended up looking better, but also it felt more real for one, but it also made it easier to direct because you knew what he can do and what feels better for the final project in the end. And I think that went really well, but also the cast all worked very well together. Saj, Robbie, Sean and Luke all worked quite nicely with each other, bouncing off each other in very nice ways, with especially with Saj and Robbie having the like boss worker relationship. It worked very nicely in the end with teamwork, and it ended up making a lot of people laugh. So in the end, I can say you can really see how much they've helped with this project and how my directing skills have improved by directing them to do these things in an easier way. Moving on to what didn't work well, in the end there was a whole scene that we recorded and I completely scrapped because of how poorly it ended up looking. Obviously I had the shaky hands when filming this, but also the way we filmed this scene was Robbie on some stairs talking to his father, which was played by me off camera, but I was still filming, so we'd still be in the same room. So we put myself on speakerphone on the phone because we didn't think I would be picked up twice because he had the wireless mic connected. So we thought it would only pick up what's coming over on that side of the camera rather than, or on that side of the mic rather than all the way down at the bottom of the stairs filming upwards. However, it ended up creating an echo because there was two voices for each of us going on, and it just didn't sound good at all. But it also wouldn't have helped editing it really, because you'd still hear this second voice and it didn't really feel right in the end because of how we filmed it. Also, sometimes because I was filming upwards and kind of holding the camera a bit higher than usual, my arms were getting tired, so now and then I'd completely like fall sideways and just not be filming Robbie whatsoever, and that ended up making the scene look terrible, so I just decided to scrap it. It didn't really add much to the story, so it ended up being fine in the end, but it was quite annoying in the end because it was a fun scene. It showed him asking for a loan from his father after getting rejected by Jonathan. However, since it was so bad, I decided it was just better to leave it and have Saj just say it's his father who's giving him his loan rather than having the scene. So in the end it worked fine, but I would have preferred it the other way. Also, unrelated to the gimbal situation, with me having shaky hands didn't help, but also the way I had it on autofocus meant if you zoom in it would just kind of like go out of focus, and I was zooming in quite a bit, making some scenes a bit blurry. This was quite annoying in the end because some scenes looked blurry, some did not. So next time I think I'll try and do a more manual focusing, just to make sure I can control every single aspect of filming rather than having, let's say, one scene look good and one look really bad. It just ends up looking better in the end and not being as terrible, and making it easier to watch for other people as well. If something's blurry, people won't want to watch it, so it comes back to the audience with some older generations won't want to watch it and some younger generations won't want to watch it because of how I filmed it, making it sometimes a bit meh compared to other bits of it. So I think that's something I need to work on a lot more with just camera settings, and how I'm filming it, how I'm going about filming it, and moving forward I'm going to focus on that a lot more rather than how it's going to turn out in the future. Focus on then. Right now, what's going on. What I would change for the better of my production and the final product. Obviously, I said the gimbal or the tripod, having it better and smoother to watch throughout the whole thing, and to edit, it would feel nicer if it felt smoother, and to watch it would feel better if it kept steady. I did try stabilizing it, however, it didn't really work out very well. It didn't help much. You couldn't really see the change when you did it, so I think it would be rather better to just do it whilst you're filming rather than post. I feel like it would look better and not weird. So that is obviously the first one. Secondly, make a better schedule. Not just for pre-production, not just for filming, but all of it. If you have a better schedule, you can get your pre-production done quite quickly, I guess, depending on how big your story is and how many ideas you've got and how much research you're doing, you can get it done quite well. The sooner you start filming, the better, I'd say. If you start filming like the first week you can, you've got a lot more time to edit it, but also you've got a lot more time to go back, reshoot it if you need. And that's something I should have done with the scene I cut. And however, due to the lack of time and also other people doing their own things, I can't just bring them out. Can we shoot this if they're busy or if there's no time? Thirdly, obviously, I said also again, the camera setup. I need to really focus on that, and whilst filming, think about what's happening there rather than how it's going to look. Focus on what's happening right now and how it's going to look right now, rather than how it's going to look in 2 weeks when you're editing it, or how it's going to look in the final edit. You got to think about what's happening now and focus on that scene and not worry about the other ones at that moment in time. So I think that is something I still need to work on as well, and I'm going to try really hard to focus on in my next project, whether that's the FMP or if I do another project beforehand to just like prepare for it. I think could be good to try document that, just not even for people to see, just so I can keep a document on how I'm doing and my progress throughout. I also did not think about that when I was doing it last time. I focused on audio and more of a story structure, because that was my biggest two main problems with the FMP. So next time I need to really focus on everything, not rather than just picking things that are like really annoying to do with like audio and story structure and that. Something also, with the final export, it ended up looking darker. I should have really looked more and not being afraid to go back and export it again. Part of me thinks I'm going to get confused with how many times I export it, or the amount of time it takes to export. It took quite a long time to export this, so I was like, I'm not really wanting to export it again, so I didn't. However, I really should have. So in the future, I should really not be afraid to go back and export it again, even if it's more than once or twice. Just keep doing it until it looks right and not giving up. I've also thought of better file naming system. My file naming system is quite bad. It's mainly the character that's on screen and then what they're doing, which is okay for a shorter project. But since this was 10-15 minutes long, there was a lot more files and a lot more going through and trying to find the right file than previously. I need to come up with a better naming system or a number system. However, sometimes number systems confuse me, so, well, not confuse me, just gets a bit annoying, because I'd rather just name it something and find it instantly rather than looking for a specific number, then a second number, so on, so on. So I really need to figure out a way I can name my files better and not get confused whilst sorting through them or editing, using them whilst editing. And then also trying to be a bit more advanced in my abilities. I feel like I'm getting a hang of the basics, but I'm not really adventuring out. I want to adventure out. Obviously, I want to try do this full time in the future. So really, and my previous project was very basic in techniques. I didn't really do many different types of shots or editing techniques, and I really want to adventure more into it. Like I said before, a practice, not like a practice, but like another project in between the FMP and now, just to like get a well, not a better, well, yes, a better understanding and a more a better advancing my skills more, just to advance my skills more to the point where I can say I've done this better, I've improved a lot more, and a lot less time than before. I think that is a big thing I want to do and try improve on when going forwards. Now focusing on my documentary, not relevant to the festival at the moment. My biggest challenges through this entire mockumentary process will have had to be in Sean's / the investment meeting scene. When we filmed this, the original idea was to just have Sean and Robbie speak, and the mic pick up both voices. However, we realised it might not sound good. Sean had a bit of a delay when talking, and the response to getting the response and then talking as well. So so Ben suggested that we filmed the lines separately, and to make it so you can't hear Sean whatsoever on the main mic that Robbie would be wearing. So we put on a headset for Robbie, so it looked like he'd actually gone into an investment meeting rather than he's just on the screen talking. It looks like he's actually in a meeting. He's set everything up, and it looks much better in the end. But it was a challenge to go back and manually find each line or each part where his lips move or anything like that. Or if we filmed a scene twice, we filmed all Sean's lines on one document, so it wasn't split up, so you have to find the right line for the lips and the scene. So you'd go through like 3 of the same scene, but then you'd only get one line, but you had to pick which line was the right line. So it ended up being a big challenge and a bit difficult to find which lines were which, and then obviously linking them up in the editing process. It took a while to line them up, me getting some other people to just come look and see if it looked right. I think I got Robbie, Saj, and I think I got Chris and Ben now and then to just come and look if the lines lined up with his lips. In the end, I think it worked well, but it was still a pain. I wish there was an easier way to do it, or an easier way for us to filmed it. I did get recommended to film his actual screen. We did try doing that, however we filmed the wrong screen, so it was just his notes that he took for the character that it was filming, so we didn't actually see his face, so it was unusable except the lines, obviously. So in the end, that was the biggest challenge of the documentary phase, let's call it. And then another one was obviously the colour correction, going darker when I exported it, but also when I was filming it, the colour looked fine. The colour looked perfectly fine, a lot better than my FMP. And then when we put it into the editing when I put it into the editing software, it'd go really grey, desaturated, to the point where I had to change all the colours once again to just make it look brighter and nicer. Although there was challenges during this documentary, I did have some strengths and some weaknesses. My strengths included my directing skills. I personally think I got a lot better throughout this documentary compared to the FMP. I did mention that I think the fact it was improvised, I think it helped me find a way to direct a lot better, because of how improvisation works. You really need a prompt. So I obviously wrote my 3-act structure, which was just the whole story in a row, to the point where it was the whole story, and it had some bits that didn't go in, some bits that was added on the day, but it really gave you a much more freeing way of directing, being able to explore different outcomes, redoing the same scene over and over again. It created this way of directing to the point where through my FMP, I think my directing skills didn't work as well, because I feel like having a script and it being my first time really directing anything, it made me feel like I was a bit trapped with directing. It was, I felt like I had to follow the script and the story to the letter. I couldn't go out of it. I couldn't really explore other possibilities with those characters. I had to go with what I wrote. Having it improvised and just having a structure made it easier to tell the actors, this is what I want, or after that scene I was like, maybe we can try this, or so on and so forth. So that's why I think it improved my directing skills a lot more. I felt more freeing when asking or telling someone to do something. It felt more natural. It felt more meaningful, rather than, hey, here's the script, do what it says. And really, they needed me, or they couldn't have really gone anywhere with it. The story wouldn't have progressed whatsoever. The second personal strength, I think, was how I improved on my biggest problems from year one, especially with the FMP, with audio. And I mentioned audio, really. It's all audio. Audio was a big problem with not using a mic and just using the camera. So you'd pick up on wind, cars, just random noises in the background, and it kind of muffled the actors' voices over, and like made it a lot harder to edit. In post-production during FMP, I remember editing this one scene a lot for audio, and it's still not looking really good at all with audio, and it just not staying consistent throughout the whole thing because of how many layers of audio editing I did. It made each clip sound different in some way, making it quite hard to watch and confusing. And I think in this one, since I used the wireless mics, it ended up looking a lot better, but also sounding a lot better, because there's no there's no clips where the audio goes louder or quieter, and even when you go outside, there is no wind noise or very minimal wind noise, and you can still hear what the actors are saying without any problems whatsoever. And I think that's one of my strong suits from this documentary project. As mentioned before, a personal weakness has always been neglecting to use all the equipment that I can. Obviously, there's the tripods, the gimbals, the lightings, the lights. And even though I had reasons for not using them this time, I should have still used them. I tried using a tripod last time, and I didn't really like it. So I think moving forward, I'm gonna try use gimbals. I know Robbie used a gimbal, and his looks very nice. So I think I want to try use that and get the hang of using one of those when it comes to filming and making it look more professional, and also for zooming in and zooming out. It would be a lot better when it comes to focusing on things and not making it go unfocused or blurry or grainy or anything really. I just really need to start using all the things I can to make it look as good as possible. Another unrelated thing to the production really, but more of a college thing. Journals, I fell behind on this one. I did the first 7 weeks of the journal, and then I kind of forgot about it, having a week off and focusing on filming and editing. I didn't think about the journal whatsoever, and I think that's something I need to figure out, because it makes the evaluation this a lot easier. I know that I struggled when it came to explaining what I did well and what I did not do well with the filming and editing in this. I really had to think about it. And I think if I had a journal, it would be a lot easier to just go back, look at it, say, oh, this is what I did wrong, this is what I did right, and just make it really easy to get those higher grades, rather than 1 week before doing the evaluation realizing I don't know what I'm going to say. So next project, I really want to keep doing the journal consistently each week, and not risk. And even if I'm like, oh, I'm a little bit behind, I've missed a week, do it before the second week. The next week, journals should be done, just so I don't have the risk of forgetting things the week before or multiple weeks before, and then cramming it into a poorly made journal at the end of the whole project. So that's something I definitely need to work on next time when making, well, not making, but in the production stages of making a project. Going back to my roles in the film festival, I was a part of the graphics team, as I said before, and my main role was posters. I was helping make film festival posters, but also posters for other people who couldn't or were falling behind, or whatever the reason was. I made in total 5 and a bit. I think I started one and then didn't finish it. Posters. I didn't finish the other one because they decided to make their own. Some of these didn't get used. Beyond Eden one did not get used because they decided to make their own after I made it. I was in charge of making these posters to go around college or on social medias, whatever the director of the graphics team wanted them to go. He decided. I think he used them all in the booklets he made for the project, to just go over which documentaries, what they're about, how they progress, and the people who created them. This was all to promote the film festival as well, to just to make it easier for people to know it's happening, and for them to come if they want. Also, I posted my documentary to YouTube, as I said before, but then I also shared it out to a lot of places, Instagram, communities I'm a part of, like Discord communities, where they just talk about film, or they talk about film, or they create their own films, and you can just share your own projects. I shared them to a couple of people as well, to gain feedback. Couple people said it was really good. Some people didn't really say, oh, I just said like cool, whatever. But I posted it everywhere, trying to build up an audience so I can build a portfolio that people have seen. A portfolio is always good for your future, but also the more people who've seen it, it shows that what you're doing is good. What you're producing is better than what other people are doing. So building an audience is a big key part of promotion. The bigger your audience, the more it gets promoted, the more people see it. And so that's why I've been sharing it all over the place, just so perhaps that one odd fellow or just a group of people will see it and enjoy it. And that's a big part of how I made my project. How I made this documentary was, I did this for the FMP as well, not to this scale. I think I only posted it onto Instagram, maybe one group, but this time I shared it all over the place. Really going in, putting tags on everything, so people who follow these tags will see it, or it might come up for them in their For You pages or whatever. In the future though, for promotion, I think not only do you make the actual thing, but you also make a short like trailer to put on like TikTok. TikTok has a very big audience, and it's very easy to get your stuff on the not FMP, the For You page, with all the hashtags, tags, music, genres and stuff that they use on that app to give you a For You page. It just makes it a lot easier for people to come across it. Even if they don't go and watch the full thing, they know about it. You're most likely, the more views you get, the most likely other people are gonna start seeing it. So I think in the future, promoting it will be a bigger part of it as well. Now diving further into the festival, the challenges I faced. The biggest one, even though they were not as big as compared to when I was actually making the documentary, they were still present, but not on a greater scale. My biggest problem was I got a bit confused with how they set it up. Well, not how they set it up, but how they wanted it set up. I organised all the, like, how the film festival order, pretty much. I put it into the system how they wanted it. So I was kind of just following a script to follow, a routine almost. Uh, Even though I did eventually gain a rhythm, and well, I've been calling it a rhythm, like a constant flow of what I was doing by switching it off and on. At the beginning, at least for the first block of documentaries and a bit of the second one, I got a bit confused with because they wanted the crest in between each documentary. They It confused me because I thought that would require a pause. So when that happened, I would pause a bit so people would leave, or for the host to just say something, because that's what, when reading the script, that's what I understood, that's what I thought was happening. However, they did not want that. The host would not talk in between them, and even though they did want people to leave during this time, for whatever reason they would wait until the next documentary would start, causing a bit of problems for the festival as a whole, but nothing we really can control in the end. However, even though it was a pain, these challenges were overcame with the manager keeping up a role, staying focused throughout the whole thing. She was helpful when it came to some sort of roadblock, as you would call it, in the script, or a lack of communication. It helped me with, if when switching to the next documentary, which she would say, "Hey, we're not pausing. Just go to the next one." And that was a big help in the end. Obviously, as you go through it, you were doing it for about 4 hours, and you gain a rhythm, so you know what you're doing, you know the timings eventually, and it gets easier. So by the end, it was no problem whatsoever. But the challenges were still there at the beginning, and if they weren't, it would have been quite a good event in the end. My personal strengths through this project, through the festival, would have been how I stayed focused the entire time. There was not much problems going into it. In the end, I think people enjoyed themselves at this festival, and it went smoothly for the most part because I stayed focused, and also syncing up with the sound technician and the lighting operative. When it came to switching them, we'd mute the mics, turn the TV screen up, and also dim the lights so people could easily see what's on the screen. And we synced it up very quickly, like instantly pretty much. Them kind of just going off what I was doing, and it making it a lot easier to predict what was happening, and easier to do without speaking. So we're not disturbing anyone whilst watching, but also keeping a good flow throughout the whole thing, not causing any problems whatsoever for the other members of the festival team. However, a personal weakness would have been, I wish I prepared a bit more. Obviously, the beginning could have been a lot better if I was a bit more caught up on what was going on, how they wanted to do it, how they were going to do it. I thought the hosts were going to do more in between the documentaries. I got that wrong, and that's on me. So next time I need to really communicate with the hosts, with the manager, with everyone really a lot more, to just gain a better understanding of what they want, their vision for the whole project, and where I can help and bring it forward. Another part of the festival where I think a weakness was, I should have communicated with people beforehand for if they wanted a poster making. I think everyone ended up with a poster, by the end of it, but some people took a while to make their posters, because I don't know if they were expecting to make their own posters or if they were hoping I would make theirs. But I think I should have just like put out on Teams or something, if you want your film festival poster making, send me your images and it'll be made for you, and I'll send you it. And Luke it, who needed them for promoting the whole thing. So next time I think I'll need to really work on my communication. I'm not a very talkative person, but it's definitely something I need to get more at the hang of, not just for projects but everyday life. It's a necessity to just keep going and to improve upon myself. Finally, to the conclusion of the whole evaluation, I'll start with skills I can improve on. I personally think you can never be perfect at something, so you could always improve upon yourself, whether it's just taking advice from someone or looking at someone else's project and saying, hey, I want to try that, or I want to get better at that, compared to this is good enough, you know. To begin with, the cinematography, obviously mentioned it multiple times. My biggest problem, shaky hands. Should I use a tripod or a gimbal to just keep it straight, to keep it more in focus, and really to make it more watchable. Audio, I mean, I improved upon audio this time, however I can still improve. With Sean's bit, obviously the confusion with finding the line, with finding the lips that match with the line, but also the scene that I got cut, well, I didn't get cut, but I cut, of Samson's dad and him just finding a better way to do a phone call in a scene, maybe just having them talk on the phone and then fill in the gaps in post with like a voice actor and putting like a phone speaker filter on it. It'd be better than having it there like that. And then lighting, I mentioned how I should use lighting more. The lights that are provided to create the three lighting structure to really highlight a person. Other people have this down a lot more than me. Robbie has a good lighting in his film. Even just Luke's photography during the event of the festival was a lot better than mine, which I really want to improve on lighting, just so it's nicer to look at. My projects are fun, but they're not physically the most appealing thing to watch because of my camera settings and how I've set it up. So those three things really need to improve for me to get better at everything else in the media world. Obviously directing, I really want to get better at directing / storytelling, because I feel like I've improved this time, but I need to improve with a script. I need to improve with a more fleshed out story, so I can say I am a good director, I know what I'm doing, whether it's improv, written, or a spur of the moment thing. You know, I can do something with everything. I can direct anyone, anytime, any place. Also would link in with communication. I'm not a very big talker, as I've said before, but also my communication skills are not very good, even if I do talk to you. So I need to improve upon those with going out, meeting people, or just getting the confidence to talk to someone. Either way, I need to improve upon it to improve my directing skills at any point. And then confidence also comes in with that. I'm not a confident person. When talking to people, I don't really like bossing people around. So I need to find a way to direct someone without bossing them around or coming off like an idiot or an annoying person. I need to come off as a person who you can respect and get along with whilst you work, or it just won't work as well in the end. Editing, I want to adventure out into editing more. I have the basics down, but I really want to try more like effects with not just like Adobe effects, but like movie effects like fire, or making it look like there's something there when there's not there, something like that. I just really want to improve upon my editing skills a lot more. I think I have. From my FMP, each scene had like one shot. It was taken in like one shoot, and I didn't stop to like take a different angle or anything like that. I think because of that, I didn't have as good editing skills. This time I did do that, creating more of a constant editing presence rather than here's the clip, watch it, not on to the next. I think I've got better, but it can definitely still improve. And timing, for the film festival, I didn't have the best timing at the beginning, but also during the a better schedule obviously would have been nicer, which helps with the timing. Creating a larger scale project, you need time, you need schedules, so you can go back if you need. You don't have to worry about a deadline because you're ahead of the time. I think that's something I also need to improve on. How will it help me next? Next project, I don't think it's a major filming project, but this has helped me with so many things. This is my first evaluation where I speak to the camera. I also did that for my pitch, and I think those things help me when it comes to sitting in front of a camera talking about what I'm gonna do, what I did right, what I did wrong, that type of stuff, so I can make a video essay next project and pass. Obviously I've how it helped this time will also help in the future. This time it helped when it came to the structure of my story, how to pace it, how important it is to make scenes that are important longer than scenes that are irrelevant. In the first FMP that we did, I don't think I did a very good job of making the important scenes the important scenes. Some important scenes were a lot shorter than they should have been, compared to other scenes where they should have been shorter. This time I feel like you got what the important scene was. The investment meeting with Samson and Jonathan. That is the important scene in this whole mockumentary. That is the key plot of the story, pretty much. And that really helped me learn you got to really advance a important scene and cut back on the irrelevant scenes. For example, the one that I got rid of, it wasn't irrelevant, but it didn't need to be there to progress the story, so it was fine. Kick it out, making it shorter in total, making it a better watch for the viewers, and the audience. Um, Obviously, I've mentioned how it's helped with directing skills. I feel like because there's a lot more direction that actors need from me, it ends up helping my directing skills a lot more than their acting skills. Even though they're not wanting to be actors, it helps more for me rather than it would have helped a real actor. You know, an improv, I guess it could help an actor learn how to run away from the script rather than just following it. But for a director, it really helps you understand what key directions need action directions. Like, I don't think I gave really any directions for how they should move, how they should act in the first in my FMP. However, this time it's like you're gonna do this, you're gonna move there, you're gonna go over there, you're gonna do that, instead of just what's it say on the script, you're gonna do that. It helped a lot more in the end because of that. It's also helped me learn the things that I've neglected before, like lighting, gimbals, tripods, how you could film a scene. Anything that I've really neglected to do is really emphasized. You gotta do this, or you can't really progress. You gotta keep progressing, or you're just gonna be stuck. So doing these things will help me. Doing all the things I've done in this project has helped me learn I've got to do more next project. I've got to do way more next project than I did this time, than before, and so on, so forth. My future goals are still to improve my directing and story ability, telling abilities. They are my main goals in this. That's why I joined media. That's why I'm doing it as a course. That's why I want to pursue it as a career. I love creating a story and then making it come alive. That's why I want to be a good storyteller and be able to direct, so it can come out how I want it. I have, I can say I've told this story. I've done it all. I've created it. I've directed it. This is my vision. This is what's happened. And that is my main goal for the future. When it comes to the whole future, I guess. College future though, I want to create an FMP where it's so-called flawless. Not obviously it won't be flawless, but something that you could consider he's done everything correct or somewhat correct. Lighting, sound, shakiness. I don't want anyone to look at it and say and instantly think that could have been better. You know, I want it to be like you got to really watch it a couple of times for you to like, hey, maybe improve on that. That's what I want for my FMP. I want to get it to the point where I don't have to keep going back to look audio or keep looking at lighting or go back and look, oh, that looks really shaky or anything like that. Anything like that, I just don't want in my final FMP. I want to end my college year off with a big success, with a FMP that really highlights every key point I've learned through my time at college, and so I can say I've improved from when I started. Starting in January 24, I did not know anything really about media. It's my first time doing media, and I can say I've improved a lot since the first project, which was like tyro training. My editing skills were terrible, audio was bad, camera skills were non-existent, and to now with this, I've created a story, I've directed a couple times, I've gotten better audio, I've gotten better editing, and I can think I can look back at all my college projects and think, wow, I've really improved. And I want to keep doing that by the time of the FMP. And with that, that is my evaluation. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you back for my FMP, where I think I will be doing one of these video essays once again.